Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I would like to call this special meeting of the Faculty Senate to order. I will just note that only faculty senators have the privilege of the floor, although others may, who are present, may ask to be recognized, and senators may yield time. Our first item of business is a motion to approve a special rule proposed by Professor Ned Patterson, chair of the Faculty Consultative Committee. The FCC proposes the following special rule during the meeting. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes each time they are recognized. The clerk will interject when speakers have 30 seconds left and when time is up. A 2/3 majority of those present and voting is required to approve the special rule. Clerk, can you please bring up the poll for that rule?
I'll give it a few more seconds if you wish to vote.
Thanks.
And last call. There being 71 ayes, no nays, and 1 abstention, that motion carries.
Thank you. Our first item of business is a resolution on classroom health and safety under COVID-19. There are 50 minutes allocated to the discussion, and I'll call on Professor Ned Patterson to begin.
Thank you, Chair Chomsky. Good morning. Thank you all for joining on such short notice. As was indicated at the regular meeting last week, Senate leadership has heard a wide range of faculty and other community members' thoughts and opinions about COVID risk reduction decisions by the administration. As was also indicated last week, there's been quite a bit of consultation with the administration by Senate leaders in the appropriate committees. 18 faculty senators have put forth this resolution, which will be for discussion at our special meeting today. This resolution does reflect many of the concerns Senate leadership continues to hear from faculty and also staff and students, importantly. The Faculty Senate has followed an almost universal practice considering items at one meeting so there can be full discussion, followed by a final decision and vote at a second meeting. That allows full deliberation and decision-making and allows the senators to communicate with their constituencies in between meetings for full information and consultation. We have set the agenda for this meeting in a similar fashion, planning to discuss the resolution that's on the agenda today and to have final discussion vote at a second meeting, potentially likely another special faculty Senate meeting in the coming weeks. This seems particularly important for a resolution of this importance as with so many aspects. And it also seems important that the vote in the Faculty Senate can occur after senators consult and hear from their faculty colleagues not in the Senate, and also considering staff and student perspectives in the University Senate meeting following this, as the resolution areas affect staff and students too, and key university administration members will also be available the first 30 minutes of the following University Senate meeting. We have set the agenda in that fashion, expecting only discussion today with a final discussion vote soon, but not at this meeting. At the same time, we realize the importance of this matter to those proposing it. So although the agenda lists the item for discussion, the FCC last week in setting the meeting did not in this instance intend to preclude the possibility of voting today. Alternatively, if the resolution is potentially to be voted on today, we think the whole body should decide that is the best way forward. So if after discussion, there's a motion today to take a vote today, we will first take a vote on whether to vote. And then if that vote is positive, we will then proceed to a vote on the substance of the resolution. If that first vote was negative, the FCC would plan for an upcoming Faculty Senate meeting for final discussion and a vote. Lastly, we want to make it clear that the resolution in this case is advisory to the administration, and it does not cover any areas delegated to the Senate to be a binding resolution. With that all said, back to you, Chair Chomsky.
Thank you. I will just add one note in terms of process. In order to facilitate the possibility of a vote on the resolution today, the plan is to, at about 9:10, accept any motion that might be made to conduct the vote. so that we don't run out of time for that. But in the debate before that, it would be helpful if people spoke to the question, both of the merits and of the of whether to vote on the matter today. With that, I will call on Ellen Messer-Davidow and Michael Minta, who are presenting the resolution.
Thank you, Carol, and thanks to the members of the SCC and FCC for sending our resolution forward to these meetings. My job is to provide evidence showing widespread concern about the current COVID mitigation efforts, and then Michael Minta will comment on some of the resolution's provisions. The subject of this resolution has been widely discussed. On April 18th, on August 18th, the university held a town hall, which it is reported garnered over 1,000 viewings. As concerns about safety mounted, the AAUP chapter planned a town hall held on September 4th and attended by about 250 people. On September 7th, the Coalition of Students, Staff, and Faculty United for Health and Safety published an open letter to President Gabel identifying stronger COVID measures and signed by at least 750 individuals. Graduate students also circulated their own statement asking for stronger measures and containing 28 pages of single-spaced signatures. Meanwhile, the AAUP circulated the forum minutes, a poll on COVID efforts, and then a draft of the resolution, which was revised according to feedback. Widespread discussion continued during the processes of finalizing the resolution, requesting special meetings of the FCC and SCC held on September 30th, and preparing for these two meetings today. In my email account alone, I have over 200 email chains, each sent to between a half dozen and 24 individuals discussing the resolution and general matters of COVID safety. In addition, I have reports of supporters conversing with students, staff, and faculty who were not part of the email chains. The widespread concern about the current mitigation efforts is evidence that supports the resolution's core message, namely that more needs to be done to protect members of the university community and in turn, their home communities against COVID illness and death. I now turn the floor over to Michael, who will explain why the resolution's proposed measures are better than the status quo.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Good morning, everyone, early hour. So I wanted to start by saying, first of all, we don't claim to be public health officials or claim that we have all the right answers to solve the problems. But the one thing that we do know is we want to work in an environment that is safe for our students, for faculty, and for staff. As much as we want to return to normal, and I know everyone wants to, but right now we're just not there yet. And I just think that we need to take this resolution addresses many of the things to help make the status quo better. So imagine if you're in a class of 100 students, someone notifies the instructor that you tested positive for COVID-19. The current university policy states that instructors can't notify the class. I don't know about you, but that just doesn't seem right, and it doesn't seem fair to students, and also it doesn't seem transparent. Our resolution would allow for an instructor to announce a positive class and provide a positive case to the class so students and faculty can take action to ensure that they're safe and that they're healthy. Current university policy also does not require proof of a vaccination for COVID-19. It requires that you fill out a certification, but it doesn't require actual proof. Also, it doesn't require that faculty is vaccinated. Students are required, but faculty are not required. Staff are not required. Our resolution would require proof of vaccination, not just for students, but proof for faculty, staff, everyone would be covered. I know I'm short on time, so I just want to mention a few other things. The modality. If there's an outbreak in the classroom, faculty and the units are hindered in terms of their ability to change modality. Of course, current university policy says that we can, but it makes it very difficult to do. And so our current resolution, would propose that the departmental unit, along with faculty and with administrative oversight, not saying would allow to change modality if a potential outbreak occurred in the class. The resolution requires for robust testing, adequate PPE for staff, faculty, and students. So these are some of the provisions. There are other things, but I'm short on time. But we think that this resolution is a start in improving the status quo. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you. The floor is now open for questions or comments, with a reminder that questions that might need answer by members of the administration could be answered in the University Senate, but they are not present for the Faculty Senate meeting. I will recognize Vivi Ganeshanathan.
Hi, I'm Vivi Ganeshanathan. I'd like to cede my time to Shireen Horazak.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Shireen Horazak. I'm a clerical worker in the Humphrey School, and I'm the president of AFSCME 3800. Our union, along with AFSCME locals representing technical and healthcare workers, are fully supportive of this resolution. We have been raising many of the same issues in labor management and in bargaining throughout the pandemic, but have seen limited response. That's why we joined AAUP and others in forming Student, Staff, and Faculty United for Health and Safety to advocate for stronger protocols. It brings together the voices of undergrad and grad students, frontline staff, and faculty, and we're supportive of this resolution. In particular, we need more than a checkbox. We need rigorous vaccination testing and notification protocols that ensure the safest possible learning, teaching, and working environment. We need to know ventilation systems are adequate in classrooms and offices, but also in the cubicle farms where most frontline and grad workers are housed. We need adequate PPE, and we need the ability to work from home to protect vulnerable loved ones. Brett Anderson was a lab tech and AFSCME member in Coleraine who died of COVID in April. We believe that it was a workplace exposure and that protocols were inadequate. We have heard that supervisors continued to work while symptomatic until receiving a positive test result. B. Chihak was a clerical worker on the Twin City campus who was hired to work during the pandemic and worked entirely remotely from the beginning. This summer, B found out in the same week that they were told they had to come back to work full-time in person, that their mother, who they live with, is dying of cancer. When they asked to continue working remotely to protect their mother from possible exposure, their supervisor said no, but said they'd understand if they needed to quit their job. So B did. We all love our jobs and we want to see this university function in a strong way, but nobody should be asked to or forced to risk their own lives or that of a loved one. We need stronger safety protocols that instill confidence rather than fear. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Scott Creer seeking recognition. Would a faculty, it's a P&A consultative committee chair and Senate chair, is there a faculty member who would yield time?
I will yield time.
Thank you. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Katie, for yielding time. My name is Scott Creer, and I am the elected chair of the P&A Senate, elected to represent roughly 7,000 staff members of the university community. While I do have thoughts myself regarding the merits and necessity of the resolution, I'll save those for discussion at the University Senate meeting when the entire community can weigh in. Instead, I would like to focus this generous time, for which I am grateful, to talk about the process by which this proposed resolution is before you today. This resolution is one that directly calls out other members of the university community, including students and staff. While it is true that issues and resolutions adopted by the Faculty Senate do impact the larger university community, this resolution specifically names that impact directly. As such, those members directly named in the resolution should have an opportunity for consultation. This resolution, however, did not provide such an opportunity. While any Senate can debate a resolution which specifically calls out other members of the university community without consultation, should they? I also recognize that this body holds more power over the University Senate, which gives ethical question more weight. The resolution before you used an established power structure which puts one faction of the university community over all others in an effort to have a small portion
30
of the
seconds.
university speak for the community as a whole. The conversation being had here today, the debates on the resolution, should have a forum, and I would only suggest this forum should be a community as a whole represented by the entire University Senate rather than here at the Faculty Senate. While it may not been the intention, the general perception is that the current power structure facilitates a few members of certain groups to make a call for action to be imposed on the university community as a whole. This resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Sumant Gopinath.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to make 3 points on this resolution and the motivations surrounding it. First, there's great distrust right now between the faculty and the administration. The administration's recent decision-making on COVID policies has seemed to be opaque, top-down, insensitive to reasonable criticisms and requests, and seemingly guided by the assumption that faculty and instructors are lazy and selfish and want to shirk their teaching duties and instead phone it in from the beach somewhere, despite how difficult online teaching was during the last year and a half. Having spoken to or communicated with hundreds of faculty on these issues and many staff and students besides, it is clear that we want to teach in person and that we're frustrated by the absence of policies that ensure safety for our students, ourselves, and our households during a global pandemic. Second, the proposals in this resolution are eminently reasonable. They were shaped by ideas from faculty in the School of Public Health and other experts, and were widely vetted, as mentioned, again, by staff and students as well as faculty. Why aren't we testing more frequently on campus to have a better idea of how the virus is and isn't spreading? Why can't we know which classrooms are and aren't in air quality and ventilation compliance? While the resolution is the product of a large group of senators working in consultation with a larger group of faculty members, many of whom are part of the AUP like myself, and while I stand behind every bit of it, some aspects may resonate with you more than others. My response to that is, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. There is a certain degree of urgency at this very moment. And now that we've had a month of relatively lax policies, but also good weather, we have to ask, what will transpire when the cold sets in? What will transpire? Third, it's unconscionable that the administration has ignored those with vulnerable and unvaccinated people in their households, including small children and those who are immunocompromised. Faculty have families, and the U should be aimed to be a good and humane employer rather than a stern disciplinarian. The U should have approached us honestly as partners in the reopening and asked, what do you need to feel safe in the classroom? Instead of your family doesn't count and you will teach in person no matter what. Almost all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate people keeping to the time limits. There obviously are many people who may want to speak, so that's why we are trying to enforce those. Mary Gary.
Good morning, and forgive me, I don't have a prepared statement, but I'm just seeking a little information. I think.
I'm sorry. Can you just state your college?
Oh,
where
excuse
you're a
me.
senator
I'm
from?
sorry. Yeah, I'm in the School of Medicine. I'm in the Department of Medicine.
Thank you.
So I think we all come at this, whether we're talking about the administration or about all of us here. I really do believe, I have to believe that everyone is seeking safety and the best way to keep us all safe. But it seems to me like the heart and soul of the issue or the dilemma we're facing is the value of mandates and whether or not a university should impose these mandates that you're proposing today to keep everyone safe. And to me, what the proposal in front of us appears very data-driven, surveillance testing and just get the facts, that prove that you've been vaccinated. To me, it's quite logical. But what I would ask maybe of Ellen and Michael is, can we build data from our peers? There are certainly peer universities out there who have done exactly what you're proposing. And let's look at their success or their failure. I think largely they've succeeded. And they did this quite early in the pandemic. They were leading in this. So can we build an argument based on peer data?
Thank you. Matthias Roth.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the statement that there was no consultation. There was perhaps a lack of formal consultation due to time pressure, but I can tell about my and our neighboring departments that the resolution was distributed very widely among teaching staff, among students, and that I have received many letters from my PNA colleagues that said, please vote in favor for it. We are absolutely for it. So there has to be a great deal of consultation actually within the departments as the resolution was distributed. This is the only thing I have to say here. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Iona Pribiag.
Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to address the issue of consultation and transparency, and say that in my view, I think if there's a hierarchy that's being enforced in the way that COVID protocols are being implemented on campus, it's the administration that's kind of non-transparently imposing on everyone else, and without proper allowance for discussion and input from the people that are actually doing the work of the university, its faculty and its staff. And so I wanted to address that. I also think that from our perspective, safety is the number one priority. From the administration's perspective, I think there are other considerations, including financial ones and other considerations that come into play. And so it's not quite as simple as just making sure that we're all safe. And I second also that I feel like, while the resolution itself may not have been collectively written, all of the concerns that are expressed in it, I've seen circulated in the open letter, there was a meeting by the AAUP where there were hundreds of people present. Graduate students have expressed similar concerns. I don't think this is just coming out of thin air. So
30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Sutasik.
Yeah, thank you. I want to second everything that's been said so far in support of the resolution. I also, including pushing back on the idea that there has not been consultation. There has been lots of consultation, even if it wasn't formally with the PNA Senate. I have gotten emails from PNA instructors saying that they support this this resolution. It certainly has circulated widely. Graduate students have been very active. There really has been a lot of consultation. And I also appreciate the idea of getting, the idea of this being a data-driven approach to safety, that is really our concern. And other peer institutions have done much more than we have, significantly more than we have, and it has been successful. So, for example, one of the things I'm most concerned about is the fact that we are not doing weekly testing of every person on campus. That would have the effect of catching early outbreaks. We could do enormous amounts with that information, especially if we were allowed to share it with people so that they could take action, as Michael Minna suggested. It's ridiculous that we can't do that. From a public health perspective, it just doesn't make sense.
30 seconds.
what we are at risk of is having asymptomatic and unsymptomatic people, vaccinated and unvaccinated, spreading virus before it's caught because we're not doing this weekly testing. The fact that we don't have information about all the classrooms and their ventilation is just scandalous. Our peer institutions are doing so much better on this, and we should too. And I just want to end with the point that there is a gap between what our legal obligations are and our moral obligations toward each other as a community. Thank you.
Thanks. Karen Sue, can you just formally say, I've forgotten to remind everybody where you're from.
I'm a faculty member in CLA and chair of the anthropology department.
Thank you. Alicia Cohen.
Hello, I'm Alicia Cohen. I'm the director of the Hubbard School of Journalism in the College of Liberal Arts and a proxy today, and I am supporting the resolution. As I understand it and read it, it's not perfect. There are questions about testing capacity I have and even feasibility in some areas with respect to online teaching. However, I think the earlier comment about not sacrificing the good for the perfect applies here, particularly since, as I understand it, this is advisory. And I think the faculty senate has an obligation to provide good advice. While upper administration can work out logistics with various employee and student groups, they need to hear from us. We're a school, and I represent PNA, graduate, undergraduate, and faculty on this, where our classes need to be in person. And because of that, I know as a leader in my unit, had I relied on central resources this summer, I might not have had N95 for my more than 100 reports that I had to get things to. I certainly wouldn't have had air purifiers ordered in time in the rooms where 140 students were, or basement lab areas that assured faculty who had little kids at home that the room that they were moving into would be safer for them. Of course, nothing is perfect, but we needed to do that to make sure we could run. And so this resolution helps us send a clear, unambiguous message in support of COVID vaccination and a data-driven approach to safety for the community. As a scholar of health communication, I also want to say there's no body of evidence that would support the communication that communication interventions alone will result in community immunity. Despite this, our interim vice president for research, Michael Osterholm, erroneously maintained in an op-ed letter that mandates could would stop it. When I asked them on Twitter to cite the evidence, they had none. We need to keep the focus on this. I'm sorry, was that time?
No, that was 30 seconds. You were fine.
Okay, great. And the reason they have no response is we know from airlines, hospitals, healthcare systems, and private universities that the only way to get vaccination numbers above 95% is with a mandate. This is why the CDC's guide recommends it as an effective way to increase vaccination. There are easy ways for us to move forward in a better way. Thank you.
Thank you. Pavel Mraz.
Hi. Thank you for recognizing me. I'm a faculty senator from the medical school, and I'm a faculty in the Department of Laboratory Medicine and Pathology. I just want to offer another perspective. So as a physician, I'm both faculty at the university, but I'm also employed by the UMP, and I also provide services for mHealth Fairview. And it seems that there is a duality in the approach in the across those institutions to the sort of vaccination mandate. So I've been vaccinated since December of last year because I provide clinical services, and I am mandated to be vaccinated as part of my UMP employment. So all of my colleagues who are faculty at the university and medical school, but also provide clinical services, are mandated to be vaccinated. All our staff in the hospital is mandated to be vaccinated. And all the medical students that come through our rotations are mandated to be vaccinated. We also have protocols what to do if we are exposed to COVID, including I can sign out remotely pathology cases from my home office, and this is in place, and this is also supported by College of American Pathologists. And I can also offer teaching via Zoom to medical students. So it seems to me that there is a dual approach when certain sections of the university, like the medical school faculty that offers clinical services, are subjected to a completely different set of rules than other faculty, and even more. It seems like if I were to provide, teaching services outside of the medical school to other students, I would be subjected to different rules. So I think this resolution tries to bring forward more stringent and more in line with rules with what we have for the clinical services. And I want to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see Sarani Millikan, who's chair of the Student Senate Consultative Committee. Will a faculty member yield time?
I'll yield time.
Thank you, Tracy. Go ahead, Sarani.
Thank you so much. I am Sarani Millikan, as Professor Chomsky said, I'm the chair of the Student Senate. I am in favor of this resolution, but I ask that if you choose to vote at the end in 30 minutes, you vote not in this forum, but in the next one that's coming up in an hour and a half. And this is for process reasons. As a previous colleague said, I agree with the need for additional transparency from administration. I will have questions for administration in 30 minutes. But speaking strictly to process, this is either urgent or it's not. If it's urgent, then you can skip formal Senate processes and do exactly what you're doing. And I agree that it's urgent. But in order to include people, and I recognize that a lot of informal consultations happening, I'm not saying that this is coming out of nowhere. You have the opportunity to consult formally at the University Senate meeting that's coming up. The authors insisted on a separate faculty Senate meeting, and I am really not sure why, given that this argument that this applies only to a classroom is not persuasive to me, given the breadth of the application. If you're going to be on campus anywhere, you're going to have to comply, and it's going to apply to both students and staff. And while I agree, I know some of my colleagues do not, and I would like for their views to be heard before this decision is made. I understand that this is advisory, but imagine if you could get the entire university behind your resolution. And why would you not do that when you have the opportunity? Again,
30 seconds.
Colleagues have cited informal consultation, and that's great. But as you cite, speaking on behalf of the people that you've spoken to informally over and over, I have spoken to students, I have spoken to staff. I know you are faculty who are saying that you're speaking on behalf of students and staff. Recognize this, and please give us the opportunity to vote for ourselves, which again, it's only an hour wait. If you just let the vote happen in the university.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen Messer-Davidow.
Thank you, Professor of English and faculty senator. I want to speak to the data topic that has been raised repeatedly. If data are going to be helpful, they need to be shared with people who need to know. That's number one. Number two, to be effective, data need to be both aggregative data to show patterns, to trace spreads, and individual data in order to be sensitive to individuals' circumstances, which are different. Unfortunately, the administration has taken an across-the-board approach of basically telling faculty and instructors and TAs that they have to teach in person unless they have an exemption for medical reasons by the Disability Resource Center. And many people with vulnerable individuals at home or with their own problems have been denied remote teaching. So I'm very concerned that the administration not only collect aggregate data and be able to trace patterns, but that it be sensitive to individual circumstances when it makes decisions and makes larger policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Alexander.
Thank you. I'm from College of Science and Engineering. And I just wanted to mention a couple of things that I've heard from faculty and graduate students that in my mind indicate support for the resolution and things that might be considered going forward. One is the cost of providing PPE and the costs of testing. And another one is two people raised an issue, which I thought was very interesting. Self-identification of students as positive. And I also think it's important to recognize how widely held the view is that it is important to be in person, and that the choice to teach remotely is not one taken lightly. And that's something that I've heard from a number of people here. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Waldner.
Okay, there. I don't know why it took so long to unmute. I'm from CLA. I'm chair of the history department, and I'm here as a proxy. I would like to voice support for the resolution. I think we have a problem with data and data collection. I think the fact that Boynton is testing only a small number of the people in the community means that statements like our positivity rate is lower than the community as a whole actually has very little meaning. I think that, like Alicia and Karen Sue and all the chairs, a lot of the protocols for classroom safety were actually carried out at the department level. And there are things that we simply cannot do. I mean, the provost says you want to social distance, get a larger classroom. Well, classroom management cannot manufacture larger classrooms. And we have classrooms where students are literally sitting shoulder to shoulder, and requests to allow those classes to go online were denied. And I also would like to reiterate what other people have said about how dreadful it is to tell people who have vulnerable people at home they have to teach face-to-face. It's quite clear that there are asymptomatic breakout episodes, and vulnerable people are at risk. And I don't think we should ask people to risk their family lives to teach face-to-face. I think that's about it for me.
Thank you. So I see 4 hands raised at the moment, and my plan will be to call on those 4 and then see if there is a motion for taking a vote today, so that we have time to do that before adjournment at 9:25. Depending upon what happens with that, there may be time for others to speak as well, but that will put us on a time frame I think will work. Michael Minta.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if we could actually respond if we had questions directed to us, but I wanted to respond to Mary Gary's question about can we build off of other peers, and I agree. I think that's what we should be doing, and I'm not saying the administration isn't doing that already. We just don't really know about it, right? I mean, I've looked at minutes of the various meetings, so like, you know, what's Michigan's doing in terms of the vaccine mandate and requiring proof for University of Illinois with their testing. I mean, we have peer institutions. And so I think a lot of what I'm hearing from colleagues is that they expect the University of Minnesota to be a leader in this and not be reactionary. And so that's all this resolution and what we're trying to do, and trying to get sentiment of faculty, right? We're not, like I said, we're not trying to speak for all faculty. But what we're doing is this resolution expresses sentiment of many faculty at the AAUP town hall, the letters from graduate students. So there's a lot of people that have been consulted that have these concerns. And so I think that we need to get the data, we need to collect it, it needs to be transparent, and then we need to go from there. I just don't think that these ideas that we can't do better. I know we can do better. And that's all we're doing. We're pushing our university to make our workplace conditions better for staff, faculty, and students. So, and then one last thing. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Gopalan Nadathur.
Hi, good morning. My name is Gopalan Nadathur, and I'm a CSE faculty senator. I'll be rather quick because I know we're short on time. The 2 things I wanted to say. One of them is that I've been wondering the sense in which people are worried that there hasn't been enough consultation, and especially from the PNA folks. And I feel the one aspect that we might have missed out on a little bit is that of implementation of the resolution. And I think it's perfectly fine for us not to have taken that into account because the resolution doesn't talk about implementation at all. Implementation is a worry, and this is something that we should get together and perhaps discuss in the University Senate. It shouldn't preclude our bringing this up in the Faculty Senate, and it shouldn't be misunderstood. That's one thing. The second thing I want to say is I understand Sarani's point that we should vote for it, but there's nothing exclusive in voting for it in the Faculty Senate. We can also do it in the University Senate. Okay. And it shouldn't be construed as if we are trying to cut anyone out. It's a faculty opinion, and then we might join together with other people in the University Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Emery.
Tim Emery, faculty senator from the medical school. I just want to point out that there's a difference between in a vaccine mandate between compliance and actually being vaccinated. Because if you have a committee that's exempting anybody who wants to be exempted, they might be in compliance, but they may not be vaccinated. And you may not know that they've been exempted. So I just throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark B.
Hi, Mark B., member of the FCC. Just maybe with three real quick points. One is I've heard about some widespread consultation within some units. I can assure you that's not been the case across all units. Mine, for example. We heard early on that faculty concerns was sort of the justification for the resolution. We haven't heard anything about evidence that justifies faculty concerns in terms of the models and the data that are being provided by the university. Maybe we can discuss that in the next meeting. My third question, I guess, for some of the presenters was that, on campus on any given day, there may be upwards of 100,000 people across all system campuses. And so weekly testing 100,000 people presents some logistics we haven't heard much about yet. And my read of the COVID dashboard is that Boynton is now doing between, say, 800 and 1,000 tests per week. And I'm wondering how that relates in terms of a percentage, because we've heard that's an inadequate number. How does that relate to the percentage of that 100,000 people that have signed on in support of AAUP efforts? One number I heard was 750. Those seem like roughly similar percentages to me, and it feels discordant to call one massive support for AAUP efforts and the other one inadequate. And I just wondering if somebody could comment on that and help me think through that. Thank you.
So that was I don't know if there's anybody who can speak to that. A particular point, it might be that it's folks who will be at the University Senate meeting. That was the last speaker that I identified before asking whether there is a motion to vote on the resolution today, which, so Sumant, are you asking to be recognized for that purpose or a different purpose?
No, thank you, Carol. For that purpose, I was going to move that we vote to see if people want to vote on this motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right. So we have 10 minutes left for this meeting. So, and people have spoken to the idea of whether we should vote or not. So I will consider that motion to be ready for a vote. I see one hand raised, so I will recognize you as before we actually take the vote. Sarah Lamb.
I'm Sarah Lamb from University of Minnesota Morris. My question is just whether voting on this now precludes a broader vote in the next full University Senate meeting?
No, it doesn't. If the vote is taken now, the same issue will come up in the University Senate meeting. The item is set for discussion. It's expected we would follow the same procedure of deciding whether to vote and then voting on it. If there is not a vote taken today, as Ned Patterson said at the beginning, the plan would be for the FCC to set it as an agenda item for a vote at a future Senate meeting, very possibly a special Senate meeting. Sarani, we need someone to yield time.
I yield my time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say that the reason why the preclusion question matters is because faculty have 196 votes, students have 50, PNAs people I think have 50, but I don't remember clearly. And so there's a preclusion in effect versus preclusion in formal process. Thank you. Oh, sorry, faculty and staff, PNA Senate has 23. So just for context, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so the motion on the floor is whether to vote on the substance of the resolution today. A yes vote will then we proceed to vote on the resolution itself. A no vote, we would defer that to another meeting. Amber, can you pull up the poll for that vote? And only faculty senators should vote, including those who are here as alternates.
Give it 10 more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. There being 85 ayes, 18 nays, and 5 abstentions, the motion carries.
All right, thank you. So we will proceed then to, we have a very few minutes left if there are others who want to be recognized, but otherwise we'll proceed to a vote on the substance of the resolution. Karen Sue.
Thank you. Again, Karen Sue Taussig from CLA. I just did one quick look because people were asking about data. And I know I read an article about Northeastern University doing an exceptional job of testing. So just as a comparison, our university has 51,147 students. Northeastern has 19,940 students. Between September 24th and September 30th, Boynton says they did 888 tests and had 19 positives. And that's 888 tests and 19 positives. Northeastern on October 2nd did 2,011 tests and had 1 positive. Okay, they're doing weekly testing of every single person on campus. Their dashboard is incredible. They have an app so that if you have symptoms, it tells you what to do. You don't have to search for information. You know what to do. If you're a faculty member, from the app, you can ask, you can put in your request to teach remotely that day. The classrooms are set up for Zoom in so that students can hear and see not just the instructor, but the entire classroom. I mean, it's night and day what kinds of things other institutions are doing compared to what we are doing. And just the testing piece of it. We don't have to do everything Northeastern is doing, but we should look to what they're doing as a kind of model.
30 seconds.
It's just shocking to me to see these numbers.
Thank you. One last comment, Claire Halpert.
Hi, thanks so much for recognizing me. I'm Claire Halpert, Senator from CLA, and just to go off of what a previous senator was saying, and maybe also answer a question that was posed by Senator B about the relative numbers. So, why is 750 overwhelming support for these positions and open letters and things like that, but maybe not in testing? I mean, I think one thing is, I'm not a public health person or a medical person, but the epidemiologists can tell us about what adequate testing is. We heard at the last Senate meeting that they had recently increased the testing a lot at Boynton, but the positivity rate stayed the same. That suggests that it's certainly not adequate. We've heard about other universities who are doing much better than us. And, as somebody who has unvaccinated people in my household, I think that the threshold of people who are concerned should, there should be a very low bar for the number of concerned people taking action. We want to protect vulnerable people in our community. Thanks.
All right. It is time to vote on the resolution itself. Amber, can you pull up the poll? Only faculty senators vote.
Ten more seconds. And last call. There being 93 ayes, 12 nays, and 4 abstentions, the motion carries.
Thank you. That being the only item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Faculty Senate.
Carol, do we log in all over again for the University
Yes,
Senate?
yes, the University Senate has a separate login. So, and I expect I will see most of you there. So yes, that would be the procedure when we're done here. Thanks for asking. I think I got a motion and a second. So Amber, will you bring up the poll?
Ten more seconds on this one. And last call. 96 ayes, 0 nays, 4 abstentions. The motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you all for an important conversation. And I will see you, many of you, shortly at the University Senate. We are adjourned.